What's up, y'all? This is Chitty Bang, and I'm on the Renegade Millionaire Show, the podcast that profiles entrepreneurs, founders, and CEOs. Join us as we go one-on-one inside the hearts and minds of some of our generation's best and brightest. And now, introducing your host, my friend, Sun Group Wealth Partners Managing Director, CNBC and Forbes.com contributor, Winnie Sun.
Hi, everybody. How is your day going? So we are coming to you from beautiful Southern California at TuneIn Studios. Welcome to the Renegade Millionaire Show. I'm Winnie Sun, your host, founder and managing partner of Sun Group Wealth Partners, a wealth and investment planning firm based here in SoCal. Take a moment to follow me on Twitter and catch my posts on Forbes.com, and please bookmark this show. And you know, it's tax season, so that means planning. So if you have questions pertaining to your own investment portfolio, just reach out. I'd love to hear from you. So as a business owner and a mom of 3 kids, I'm always thinking of not only how to best serve my clients today, but also how to best serve them in the future, thinking kids, of course, and for their kids and beyond. I remember when I was about 20-something and working in the TV production industry, I had a little fear, drive, and a lot of optimism. It was so about how to engage the audience on shows like America's Funniest Home Videos and living in that moment. So today my guest is a millennial like no other, and I'm super excited to introduce him to you. He's one of NFL's funniest linemen you'll ever meet and the brother-in-law of one of my dearest friends. And as someone on my team said, he's kind of a big deal. And I said, he's actually kind of a big guy. He's the modern-day funny guy. And wait until you hear the story of how he got rejected by a credit card company. It's true. And stay tuned because you won't want to miss out on this story. So real quick, wanted to give you an update on what's going on with the market today. You may have read this week, Kraft just signed a deal, which I believe is going to actually drive more M&A or merger and acquisition activity. The big news this week is that Kraft and Heinz inked a merger deal reported on Wednesday, and some analysts note that expectations for further consolidation are in order. The Wall Street Journal, my friends there, reported that 3G actually considered buying General Mills and Kellogg before deciding on Kraft. Go macaroni and cheese. I've been reading these analyst reports and believe that there is probably more pressure on companies to more aggressively address somewhat disappointing organic growth and really bloated spending. So shareholders want better, investors want better, so let's see what's going on there. More activity to come, and we'll keep you updated as we see more in the future. Now, speaking of crafty, let's meet my friend, Rich Ohrnberger, who plays a little football. For what team, Rich?
Well, formerly of the Chargers, I'm currently a free agent.
Da-da-da.
Yeah, available for hire.
For hire. I like to see a resume for that. Football player for hire.
Yeah, I'm on Craigslist. You can find me under my name.
There you go.
Yeah.
In what county, though?
Yeah, well, all, actually. I've registered all. It's been an expensive offseason.
There you go. What are you going to do? So thank you, Rich, for making the trek to Venice Beach today. I hear it was, 3 hours?
Yeah, a little traffic, but that's okay. I was enjoying it. Had the windows down.
Love
Weather's
it.
good, yeah.
Love it. I'm trying to petition for Southwest Airlines to fly from Orange County to LAX. What do you think about that?
I think it would be a power play for Southwest Airlines.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah, move their stock. What do you think?
Can't comment on that today, but we should talk about that. So here's the thing, talk about a little bit of indecision. So I heard you kind of started playing both football and lacrosse. Why both? Are you just an overachiever?
No, not at all. I think what the goal was when I was a kid was to get me out of the house as much as possible. So my parents didn't have me bouncing off the walls; they had me bouncing off of people, which was it was a much better fit. Yeah.
Can we give the audience a little picture? How tall? How much do you weigh?
Right now.
Are we allowed to ask?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not shy. I'm 6'3", and I weigh 300 pounds this morning.
On a good day.
Yeah.
Free coffee.
Yeah.
I love it. And so you were bouncing off the walls, and your parents wanted to get you busy, so you kind of played everything.
Yeah, well, so I originally got involved in like police athletic league basketball, and that just got me off the couch, making friends, and like running around a gym twice or three nights a week, and then I started falling in line like with just sports. I just enjoyed being outside, so I got involved in lacrosse when we moved to a town which I really call my hometown, East Meadow. And that let me, find lacrosse and like really kind of hang on to that as like my spring sport, and like, but I ended up playing it all year round, and then football came along in eighth grade, and I guess that's where my bread got buttered kind of, but but it was that, I got involved in all of it because my parents just wanted me to be involved in sports in general.
So very cool. So I mean, I must admit I don't know too much about football. My very good friend Ronnie Lott and I joke because I don't know too much, but I do know that football people are very important. So from what I heard from our really great lunch in Orange County a couple weeks ago is that the body of a lacrosse player and a body of a football player, I guess this is like it's like a Victoria's Secrets model and someone going to Jenny Craig's, right? Is that the difference between the two?
Well, the thing is, there's the difference is just the size of the athlete. You're both athletes. You're both, I mean, technically athletes. I kind of feel ridiculous referring to myself that way sometimes, but like,
Why?
well, I mean, like if
You play for the NFL, but you're not an athlete.
Yeah, I guess I got him fooled, right? I don't know. The thing is, with lacrosse, you have to be like kind of a speedy guy. It doesn't matter what position you play, so you can't like lumber around. You're covering a lot of ground. You're covering fast guys if you're playing defense. You're avoiding fast guys if you're on offense. So,
What did you play? Did you play defense?
I was yeah. So you kind of patrol one half of the field, and when the ball comes to your side, you chase down the little quick guys and try to get away from them.
They'd be kind of scared to go against you, though.
There were occasions, but you know what? They had their skill set too, so they were avoidant. Yeah, but then on the converse side, you have football players who there's a vast kind of spectrum of the athlete you see on a football field, from the linemen to the receivers. Me being a lineman, I got to be big and strong and be able to move people well.
Like a lumberjack.
Yeah, exactly. Just chopping down wood. And then you have, receivers who are, some of them 200 pounds, but just lightning quick, making
200
moves.
pounds is lightning quick. I love that.
But yeah, so, I mean, the sport I chose, I had to indulge a little bit more.
Had to eat a little bit more ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you telling me the story, and I loved if you could share a little bit with the audience about your coach in high school that identified you. I thought that was pretty cool. Do you mind sharing that?
Yeah, Coach Massia, Vin Massia. He's one of a kind. Great coach, great leader of young men. I mean, really spotted me just for, what I had done in junior high school. And when I moved on to high school, was hopeful that I'd, kind of take football seriously and developed me as a sophomore on the varsity team. Kind of moved up early a little bit, and I don't think it was all that good. He thought that I was, probably better than I was at the time, but he put a lot of faith in me, and I stuck with it. Played lacrosse and football through high school, and then when I got to my junior fall, kind of had an outstanding season, and the rest is history.
And he even made sure you ate, right?
Yes. Well, yeah.
Such a good guy.
So that fall, yeah, I finished the season. I was super light, and, he knew that recruiting season comes in the spring, and if I had any chance at getting any looks, from colleges, I needed to put on a substantial amount of weight. So he helped along that process by buying some lunches,
Do you still stay in contact with him?
Yeah. I probably talk to him like twice a month, either text message or we'll catch up on the phone, call each other. But yeah, he was a big factor in, me sending me on this road, So it really was, I owe a lot to him.
Because your parents weren't quite sure that they wanted their son playing football, right?
Always supportive. My mother, however, did not want me to play at all. She finally
She
relented.
doesn't want her baby getting banged up.
Yeah, exactly. She finally allowed it when I entered the 8th grade. You know, she was like, and I was one of the biggest guys, on the team. So, she, kind of made
okay,
sense.
you're big.
Yeah, I mean, just protect yourself, And so I got after it. I had a lot of fun doing it. And my parents wanted me to stick with both sports because on a college application, multiple sports are always more attractive, captain of this team in this club. The more you have on your resume, the better it looks to these schools. Little did they know, or really little did I know, the trajectory was much different. I was on path to, go to school on a full scholarship, and I don't think either one of them supported me the whole way, but just had no idea, and who could have known that it would have worked out that way.
So you went to Penn State?
Yes.
Full scholarship?
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So you went to play football, right?
Yes, I did.
But I know that you are brilliant in other things. So what did you study?
Well, so I got in and wanted to be an education major, but it was a little too narrow scope because I wasn't exactly sure if I wanted to teach, and that sort of pigeonholes you. So I really, I went into a softer major called Human Development and Family Studies, which kind of encompasses,
interesting.
Some social work qualities, and I thought that maybe I would, do some post-grad stuff in psychology, and I was just really interested in the major in general when it was pitched to me, and it was great. I really enjoyed the classes, and I think that's important because I probably would have attended less class had I not been so interested. It's tough with football, managing your time and going to school and stuff, but being in a major I was interested in helped.
That helped a lot. Well, how'd your time at Penn State be besides like sports and education? What other things came out of it?
Well, the most important thing or person who came out of it was my beautiful wife, Anne. She was a all-star on the volleyball team that won a national championship in her tenure there. And she was just an awesome person. And we got to know each other, met each other like literally the first semester we were there, and then kind of reconnected somewhere around our sophomore year, whatever, and
you were persistent, I hear.
Yes, she wanted nothing to do with me at first, and I don't blame her. I wasn't the man for her. Honestly, I wasn't good enough for her. I'm still not. I'm trying every day to be though. But yeah, so she made a good decision, making me wait and kind of pursue, because I think in the meantime I grew up a lot.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, tell us when you first got signed by the NFL. Like, how did that all happen?
Well, so yeah, I mean, just to explain the process briefly, I graduated from college, but I didn't even go to like the graduation because you're immediately immersed in, your post-college football career training for your NFL career. So I played in the Rose Bowl, which was in obviously Los Angeles against USC that year.
Did you beat USC?
No. USC.
I'm so disappointed. Okay.
Mark Sanchez just cut us up that game. I mean, he torched us for, tons of yards. I mean, he probably ended up getting drafted off that tape alone. I mean, but so we lose, right, in fantastic form. And but immediately it was back to work for me and for anybody who's hopeful playing the NFL. You got to start training because the combine comes up and you don't know if you're going to be invited at first. And then you have your school pro day, which is those two things. They just test your skills and see what kind of pure athlete you are really, and then they do some football drills with you, but it's just really to get a baseline on what sort of athlete and really person you are, because they do a lot of interviews, right?
Oh, so they must have fallen in love with your humor then.
You know what? Actually, that came up, we in the one-on-one interviews I had at my pro day, because I didn't end up going to the combine. I just trained all the way through, found an agent, trained all the way through in New Jersey. And then when my pro day came up at Penn State, I had several interviews with scouts who were there and, position coaches, assistant coaches from other teams in the NFL and stuff. And sitting in the room with them, they want to hear your whole life story. So, of course, we had a bunch of laughs, and it was fun.
And you basically pushed out your Superman cape, and you flew, right?
Yeah, I did probably better in the interviews than I did on the actual field. Yeah,
of course, naturally. In fact, I want you to, and part of the deal of getting Rich in here, I said, Rich, you've got to tell them the story about the credit card. So Rich told us this story at lunch. I almost dropped from my chair. I was laughing so hard. But here it is. So we have Rich here, who just happens to work for a little group called the NFL, right? Plays a little bit of football, happens to be one of the best linemen on the planet. And am I hearing you right? You couldn't even qualify for my first credit card.
Right. Well, yeah. So, I mean, after the whole process with the pro day at my school and being recruited by these scouts and then inevitably being drafted by the New England Patriots, unexpectedly higher than I thought. I didn't know if I was going to get drafted at all. I'd be happy to be invited to a training camp. So I get drafted in the 4th round, and it's just a big celebration. Everybody's happy for me. I'm so excited. I go off to New England. I'm living in Foxborough where the stadium and facilities are, and play for 2 years, sign a financial advisor to help me sort of budget and figure everything out. And around the 2nd year, I had this aversion to credit cards in general. I knew people had gotten in trouble with them, all throughout my life.
You were being responsible.
I was trying
not
to.
Not touching these evil little demons.
Yeah. And so I'm
paying cash.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and really, so all I had was my bank debit card, that I would swipe for all the purchases I wanted to. I'd take out cash and pay with cash. And, so I had no debts. And because I had such an aversion, my financial advisor was like, we need to build you some credit. So we actually took out a loan and paid it over a course of a year or two, just to build credit, just so I had something on paper that said I could do it, so so anyways, 2 years goes by and, my wife, my fiance at the time, or it might've been just before that, we're living together and she goes, you ought to apply for a credit card because, your credit is where it is, but it could be higher. And honestly, you just need to prove that you can pay off debts.
You're a real person.
Yeah. You exist. Yeah. So, I had no idea how any of this worked, by the way. So I'm 20, at the time I was 24, 25 years old.
Okay. And then how much was the Patriots contract approximately?
All right, so my contract over 4 years, and this isn't, talking about Uncle Sam's cut, and this is public knowledge, so I'm not, I can say this without being, hesitant or anything. Yeah. But my contract over 4 years was $2.2 million.
So $2.2 million.
I didn't play out that entire contract.
Yeah.
I'm not a multimillionaire or anything like that. And trust me, the country takes half of that.
Yeah, of course. That's why we're going into tax season to help pay for our country.
Yes. Absolutely.
Which we're all proud to do.
Absolutely. I like driving on roads, and I like the cops,
right.
Even though sometimes they pull you over and they they wag their finger at you. But anyways, getting back to the point, I have, for me, an astonishing amount of money in the bank. I in my checking account every year after the season was over, I would, deposit into various.
Because you don't spend money, so that's good.
Well, right, yeah. I try to be careful, stay on a budget, and at the end of the season, I would always put it into investment accounts that my financial advisor and I had set up. So, but just to give you an idea, I walk into the bank and I have no idea how any of this works. I'm wearing basically a suit without the jacket. I mean, I put on a tie for this experience, and it's just the Bank of America down by the Whole Foods. You know what I mean? So I walk over there because it's too close to really drive, and so I walk over there. It rains some of the way. I remember just thinking, all right, whatever. I'm gonna have a credit card on the other end of the trip.
You just up for the credit card. I love it. I played for the NFL, but I dressed up to go to the Bank of America.
I had no idea. I had
So
no idea.
cute.
So I walk into the bank and, I wait in line to speak to the teller. And then she says, oh, no, you need to speak to one of our financial specialists. I'm like, oh,
Serious.
it's one of the people in the glass offices. I'm like, okay, well, here we go. So
Cross-selling. That's all my own feedback.
Oh, yeah. So I sit down in the little comfier chairs. Obviously, you don't stand when you're waiting for the financial specialist. So I wait, and then, I sit down in front of the woman's desk when she invites me in. I cross my leg, and I,
Did he offer you coffee and
Oh,
water?
yeah, the whole nine. It was just a red carpet
You're like,
treatment.
I play for the NFL.
No, that wasn't even mentioned.
I
And
know.
so she obviously asked me some questions in the process. And that came up. And so she was, somewhat.
She's happy now.
Yeah, she was like, oh, exciting, blah, blah, blah. She was asking me questions about, the Patriots and whatnot. So anyways, we get into the actual application process. And she's taken down all my information. And she knows what I have in my checking, which, like I said, for me was an enormous amount of money, an unprecedented amount, so I felt really confident. Like, I'm going to walk out of here with,
Credit card.
whatever their double secret credit card.
Right,
Yeah.
like super platinum with a cherry on top.
Yeah. So she runs my credit score, and I do not know what it was at the time. But she said, oh, there's a mistake. I'm sorry. Hang on a second. So she walks to another office. She speaks to another person. She walks back in. She gets on her computer again. I guess she ran it twice. I don't really remember. But she goes, so unfortunately, and she brings this paper over from the printer, and she hands it to me. She goes, so unfortunately, we're not going to be able to give you a credit card today. I was like, oh, okay, great. Will it be coming in the mail? And she goes, no, I mean at all.
Rejected by BFA.
Yeah. So I said, how is this possible? She's like,
I just got signed for 2.2 over 4 years.
Right.
But I
And
can't
2
get a
years ago.
credit.
So I figured, oh, yeah, I'm set. So, well, what ends up happening is she explains to me that I just don't have enough of a credit history to trust me with their even lowest limit card. So I walk out of there holding this piece of paper, the rain's coming down now, tail between my legs, flip the tie over the shoulder, just a defeated man. I go to the house, right? And I tell, like I said, at the time she was my fiance. I tell Annie, I'm like, gosh, I guess I tried, but they didn't give me a credit card. She goes, oh, well, there's plenty of other credit cards. That's absolutely ridiculous, all this. She's boosted me back up. She's like, don't worry. We'll find you a credit card. She's like, go online, shop credit cards. And I was like, okay. And having no idea what to do, I just sort of wrote in the things that the lady said at the bank, credit history issues, low credit score, stuff like that. And I'm just like, so where do I go from here? Capital One or whatever, I had the, low limit or whatever card. So no hassles. I was like, oh, this is the card.
I'm looking for no hassle.
Yeah, this is the card for me. So I apply. They tell me they're going to send it in the mail. I get the letter. I don't even tell Annie. I'm like, wow, I'll wait till the card comes, shows up at the door. So I'm checking the mail every day. The card shows up. I tear open the thing. It's like Christmas morning. I pull the credit card out. I peel off the glue off the back of the thing. I show it to her. And she's had credit cards her whole life. This was nothing new to her. She
had one when she was 6.
Barely impressed. She tried to feign all this excitement and interest, and she's just like, so what's your limit? And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, there's a limit on. I'm like, oh yeah, right. That the lady at the bank had talked about that. So I'm like, where would I?
I had credit card education already.
Yeah. I'm like, so where do I find that? And she's like, it should say it on the paper. So I unfold it. She's laying in bed. Yeah. She's laying on the bed, and she nearly fell off laughing when I go, well, it's and real proud of myself. It's $300. I mean, I was that's exactly what she did. So she's laughing at me so hard. She starts calling. She's like, wait till I tell people. So she's calling her mom. She's having a big laugh over it. Her dad, siblings. It was the funniest thing in the world to her. And I'm sitting there trying not to be embarrassed. But, that's just, you got to take your lumps like anything. So I obviously I was, a newbie once, but now I'm doing better with all that.
So, kids, a lesson to you: build your credit history. Mom and dad, if you're listening, set up a credit card for them when they're in high school so they have some history. I'm sure if you have kids one day, you might get their credit card from day one now that you know what you know.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Honestly, we have a boy on the way. He's due in June.
I wasn't sure if I could spell that on the radio.
No, yeah, we're good now. Yeah, and we are he'll be signed up at 1 year. I'm gonna have him. I'll get him. Probably a low limit. I don't want him going nuts at the playground. Buying everybody ice cream. Yeah, maybe $100. Maybe I don't know if they do like dollars and cents, but maybe his allowance will be on the credit card. Who knows? Well, I'll figure it out then.
Maybe, but then it has to have a cute picture though. So.
Yeah.
I love it. So, I guess I've been really curious about this story of a AQ Shipley. Is that how I say
Shipley,
it?
yeah,
Shipley.
Yeah, it was a
AQ
college
So
roommate. Yeah.
I'm curious about this. Have you heard this story? I mean, like, this is supposed to be good stuff. So what's the story? I mean, it made Wikipedia.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. So he was a college roommate. He was the center on our football team. I played guard. So we were not only played next to each other every day on the field, but our rooms were next to each other at our apartment on campus. And being a captain of the team for I think 2 years, and
You were captain?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't. I was absolutely satisfied just being one of the gang. He's an impressive guy. He's actually playing for the Arizona Cardinals now. Still doing it. Still at it.
Cool.
Doing a good job. All day tough. Great lineman. But anyway,
Wow.
so we're living together, and he always had interview requests on a certain day of the week. I think it was like Tuesdays or Wednesdays or something. It was when the reporters were allowed to call the players and do over-the-phone interviews.
Oh, is that how that works?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
you did some in person, like after the games or like throughout the week, when they could grab you. But they did have one specific day where it was media over the phone. And so we had just gotten finished with a workout. And I think we were back at our apartment. Yeah, we were back at our apartment. We were about to go over to breakfast, or we had just gotten back, or whatever the situation was. And he's exhausted. I'm exhausted. We're both about to take a nap before our class schedule starts. And his phone rings, and it's his media appointment. So usually it's like a PR guy who goes, "Yeah, we're gonna have you on. Just wait 2 minutes," and then they connect you to a conference call with all the
Right.
media. Well, so anyways, what ends up happening is he goes, "I don't want to do this, man." And I'm like, "Want me to do it?" Just goofing around. I'm like, "Want me to do it? I'll just pretend to be you. It'll go over fine." And he throws me his phone. Like, I mean, before I could even get the rest of the words out of my mouth. And he goes, "Yep." And he lays down on the couch and falls asleep. I'm like, Q, are you serious? He's like, "I have no problem with that whatsoever." He's like, "Obviously nothing profane or vulgar." He's like, "But just fire from the hip, let it fly." So I said, "Yeah, all right." So I put on my best AQ Shipley accent, Pittsburghese, and
Pittsburghese.
yeah, and I mean, dazzled them. Let me tell you, I dazzled them. It was great. I mean, not a single man or woman in the room knew that it was a farce, and we got away with it. They bought it hook, line, and sinker, and
You got quoted all over.
all over the place. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was hysterical to us. I mean, we were the only two in on the joke. Well, later that day, it probably was after practice, all of a sudden there were question marks coming up about some of the answers, about some of the people were like, "Well, it didn't really sound like AQ. It sounded a little bit more like Rich, but we're not 100% sure. We don't want to offend them." So they ended up doing like a quick questionnaire with AQ afterwards. I think that's how they caught us. They were like, "Yeah, so what did you say again about such and such, whatever, blah, blah." And he couldn't come up with the right answer. So they're
He
like,
was
"All right."
asleep.
Yeah, they're like, "Yeah, so we're going to have to obviously redo that media appointment." And they had to put out retractions. It was like this big deal for the week. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun. But, no harm, no foul, really. I think they understood.
They had fun with it, right?
Yeah.
I love it. So let me ask you this. So how do you feel about social media in general? How do you feel about Twitter?
Twitter, I think, is a great way for anybody to get their thoughts out to a broader audience than they would if they were just, opening the car window and shouting at people as they drove by. It's a great space to be interactive with people. It doesn't matter if you're a celebrity or, an at-home mom, or you're, an athlete or a garbage man. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yep.
It's just a great way to sort of connect with the world without, and sort of, filtering what you really want to interact with anyways. I think it's kind of cool. And, I'm on it. I know plenty of my teammates are on it, and it's everything from fan questions to tweeting about your workout or whatever. And I don't know. Everybody uses it for different purposes.
So I'm teasing you on this because I follow Rich, and if you are listening and you don't follow Rich, you definitely should follow him because he is pretty much the funniest guy. Like sometimes when you're just having an off day or you're just tired, you need to look at his Twitter feed because you will laugh so hard your stomach will hurt. Of course, I was just in the car with one of my partners, and she was saying, well, my kids love it because it's so funny. They read it so much. They're laughing and they're hysterically laughing. So I would encourage you to follow him. He's hilarious. And I've noticed you were kind of off for a little bit and you've come back. So we're really excited to see what you're going to be sharing with us now.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I usually reserve it to times when I'm outside of the fall, because obviously that's my busy season. Mm-hmm. And then also, depending on the team I play for, sometimes there's an edict passed down to kind of keep a cap on it because I work a little blue, as you might have noticed. My humor isn't always
that's right.
PC, but
that's
know what
makes it funny.
Yeah, exactly. I just kind of like to be myself, and when I'm with my friends and when I'm talking with my family or a buddy bellied up to a bar, I'm not gonna censor myself, so and I think it's the user's choice. You want to follow someone who might throw in an obscenity here and there. It's it's your decision. You could block me, you could do whatever you want. You're not going to hurt my feelings.
But you need to check out, okay, but those of you listening, you should totally check it out because he's got this one video of Rich at his wedding where he and his buddies, looks like a bunch of football players jumping. It is hilarious.
Yeah, it's an all-star cast. I have a cousin, my brother, two guys I played high school football with, and two guys I played college football with, and we are wearing this is sort of like an unpaid plug, but they're called the Wonder Jocks. Everybody heard of the Wonder Bra. These accentuate, enhance the male instead of the female. And so we wearing our, shirts and vests and nothing.
You're looking all like formal from the belly up.
Right, exactly. From the waist up, we look like we're ready for a
wedding.
For a wedding.
Which is what you were at.
Exactly. That was we were an hour from walking down the aisle, and from the waist down, it looked like an all-male review. So it would, and we jumped in there, and somebody snapped the shot, and yeah, I'm proud of it. Honestly, probably one of the best best men photos out there. I'd suggest checking it out at Ohrnberger. Yeah.
You want to spell it out for them?
Ohrnberger. It's amazing I was able to scoop up that handle before somebody. Yeah, at Ohrnberger. Yeah. Somebody else didn't grab that one before me, thank goodness.
So that's what you should do. My husband, owns an app company called Level 3 Apps, and he's always telling us even if you're thinking about naming your child, you should go and grab all those social handles now.
Oh wow.
So,
wow.
Tip for you. If you and Annie are thinking, and go and grab all the names down.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's a lot of forethought. It's like buying the credit card for allowance. Yeah, we're gonna get him a credit card. We're gonna sign him up. Have his Twitter account and Facebook account.
Right.
Yeah.
And Gmail account.
Gmail.
And the other thing is, I always tell my clients, I'm like, okay, even if you're thinking about getting pregnant, you just getting a twinkle in your eye, get yourself a 529 and start funding it. So actually, you can start now, even before the baby's born.
Okay.
So
all
do
right.
it.
Yeah.
Cool. And then, so let me ask you this: what is in the picture for Rich 2.0?
Right. So Rich after football.
Sure.
I would say, well, so my career has been fun and interesting. Obviously playing football and still interested in, pursuing that career, but there's an end to that, and it's insight for anybody who's currently playing because the average career lasts 3 years, and I'm at 6 going on 7 hopefully here, and so the end is near, technically. Any year could be the last year. So I've put some thought into what I want to do next. And most of the inroads I've made have been, towards broadcasting, either on camera or radio. I personally think I have a face better suited for the radio, but I mean, some people have been
I think you'd be great on TV.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's kind of like a Picasso. You look at the pieces enough and they kind of fit. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. You know what I'm interested in? I like talking to people in my personal life. I like talking to people on air. I'm having fun right now, so it would be great to get paid to do it.
That'd be cool. So those of you who are listening, there you go. He's a free agent. You can reach out to him via Twitter. But then he's my friend too. So if you need to reach him, you can reach out to me. So, I mean, with that, I think we're good for this. Thank you so much, Rich, for hanging out with us.
You bet.
I mean, I don't know about you, but Rich certainly taught me quite a bit. And probably the most important thing is to get my kids credit cards now. But you crush it on the NFL, and you're crushing it like the stereotypes. You're crushing the stereotypes of the typical millennial, and I can see certainly a career for you in broadcast. So thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. If you like this interview, please share our channel with your friends and colleagues. If you like the interview, Rich and I would certainly appreciate you sharing and spreading the word. To hear more about my past and future interviews on Renegade Millionaire, or to see my articles on Forbes, as well as media interviews, you can find me at winniesun.com, LinkedIn at winniesun, and of course Twitter at sungroupwp. And thanks again for tuning in to the Renegade Millionaire Show. See you next time. Thanks, Rich.
You bet.